Hi, this is Yamile Panduro, and the title of this research is English Language Learners and the Challenges with High School Academic Requirements. When you work in education, you get to see many students graduate, but you also get to see those that don't get to do so. A large number of those students that don't graduate are English Language Learners, also known as ELL students. This analysis delves deeper into the numbers, so it looks into the credits that are required as well as the credits that are being completed by the English language learner students. The data was taken from Lusinger High School in Centennial Valley Union High School District in Lawndale, California, which is in LA County, so it has very similar demographics to the other schools in Los Angeles Unified School District. Now, due to the evident struggle that the students are having, the research question that arose was what academic problems are English language learner students having that they are not being able to meet graduation requirements? Now, there wasn't many statistical research that was readily available in terms of study of credits and requirements of ELL students. But we did find some that gave valuable information and that related to the English language learner programs. One of them was Carlson and Knowles, so they gave us information about how the numbers have increased in the past years. So about 4.7 million individuals comprise of 10% of the students in public schools in the United States. So these are all the English language learner students. Their study was a little bit statistical because they did linear regression models, which related to our binary logistical regression models in this analysis. Another person that gave very valuable information was Claudio Sanchez. He said that 1 out of every 10 students is classified as English language learner, and it's one of the biggest challenges in the public school system nowadays. There are 25% ELLs in California alone, and 150,000 students in LA Unified alone. So a pro found that instruction for English language learners was inadequate and needed a dramatic overhaul. This means that there needs some changes to be made, so that's why these type of studies are very important. Now, our exploratory data analysis, we had a smaller data set just because we did for one high school in the district, but we studied the English requirements, math, history, science, fine arts, physical education, and electives. So these are all the A through G requirements. There are independent variables. Our independent variable was our dummy variable, which is whether or not the student is on track or off track to graduate. So 0 meaning they are not going to graduate, 1 meaning that they are going to graduate. And if you notice, we took off their names, last names, and ID numbers as well. So without going too much into detail with our descriptive statistics, one of the things that you may want to look at is the mean value. So the lower the mean value means that the lower percentage of students that are completing the actual requirement. So for science, it's 31%, meaning that only students are completing 31% of the science requirement at a senior level. So they're not going to be with 50%, they're not going to finish everything that they need to in more than a year, just in a couple of semesters. So it is one of the classes that utilizes the English language a lot, and it's that barrier that stops, and so these type of numbers make sense. Hypotheses and methodology. The hypotheses that guided the research were null hypothesis, being classified as ELL has no effect on the student meeting their A through G requirements and being on track to graduate. Alternative hypothesis, being classified as ELL has effect on the student meeting their A through G requirements and being on track to graduate. Now, without going into the whole statistical analysis, one of the most important tables was the variables in the equation. We found that English had a p-value of p equals 0.000. This means that there's not a strong enough relationship between the variable and whether or not the student is on track to graduate or not. Math, science, PE, all have p-values that are greater than 0.12, therefore there's no evidence against the null for those variables. For the electives, there is strong enough evidence to reject at 5%, so there's strong enough evidence against the null, so meaning that there is evidence of why they are not being able to graduate. Fine arts is at 5%, evidence did not provide enough information to reject or accept the null. With a failure to reject the null hypothesis, this could lead to a type 2 error. All B values are positive except for math, which is B equals negative 0.019, which makes sense because the lower the graduation rates for math, the lower the graduation rates overall. So some of the numbers, even though they have no direct correlation, they tend to make sense. Now, in terms of bias, ethics, and social responsibility, there was a bit of ambiguity bias. So the data should live in the gray space between black and white. So as an analyst, we provide you the data that we want you to see. But it shouldn't be like that. So there should be more factors, not just yes, the student will graduate, no, the student will not graduate this year. There are other factors that affect graduation, so it's important to include them, such as if the student's special education, how long the student has been in the country. So adding variables like that makes the analysis more rich, and I feel that that's something to add in terms of further research. In terms of ethical research, it's just keeping the student information private. They are protected under FERPA, which is the Family Education Rights and Protection Act, meaning that no minor information should be going out without the parent or guardian consent. So it's very important to not include names, last names, or ID numbers so that no student can be identified or hurt in the process of the research. Social responsibility is just using the data to improve education overall. That's the whole goal of this, to do an overhaul, to do an analysis of why the students are not reaching graduation when they're classified as English language learners. So just using it for the greater good. In conclusion, the foundation didn't give us direct answers, but it set a foundation for future research. So it gave the variables that should be looked at, or the variables that could be changed or polished, and maybe just setting a more clear dependent variable next time, so that there's able to be a linear regression model and not just categorical data. The end goal is to fix a system where the English language learner students are failing and providing them with opportunity to succeed. This can only be done with further research, so the hope is that someone else takes this information and expands on it. Here are a bit of my references, and thank you for watching.